All right, Arizona Cardinal fans, this is the Red Rain Podcast. This is our 202nd episode in the 5-year history of the Red Rain Podcast. It's my honor to welcome you in once more, the host, the one, the only, Walter Mitchell.
It's my honor to be with Kyle Little Rock Ledbetter sporting an Arizona Diamondbacks hat. We're about a month away from pitchers and catchers, as far as I know. And, of course, Kyle's going to be covering my Sacramento Athletics.
Very nice.
I know how to pick them, right? Actually, I think the A's might be pretty good this year. Knock on wood.
Still
And then
need some pitching.
be joined by Suaro Sam, our resident expert, our Arizona guy with the boots on the ground, to help us figure out why suddenly, well, maybe not suddenly, but it dawned on me this morning when I read an athletic article about the Cardinals being ranked last of the teams looking for head coaches, and then did some math to figure out, oh my God, over the last 4 years, the Cardinals have the lowest number of wins in the NFL at 19. So that, given that, and given this poll, which Kyle's going to explain to us by The Athletic, of a 10-person panel comprised of NFL coaches and high-ranking execs. Here were their votes. Go ahead, Kyle.
So of the 10-person panel of NFL coaches and high-ranking executives, they determined that the Buffalo Bills were the best job, the Baltimore Ravens was the second best job, New York Giants was third, with obviously hiring John Harbaugh. I'm not quite sure how they came to that conclusion, but sure. Atlanta Falcons 4, who hired Stefanski, Pittsburgh Steelers 5, Tennessee Titans 6, who yesterday hired Robert Saleh, 7 Miami Dolphins, who hired Jeff Hafley, 8 Cleveland Browns, 9 Las Vegas Raiders, and dead last, number 10, the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, bringing up the rear. And let's read what they wrote about the Cardinals.
Here's what they said. Owner Michael Bidwill has come under heavy criticism, and the Cardinals have gotten routinely crushed by players with the NFLPA report cards. General Manager Monti Ossenfort and head coach Jonathan Gannon created momentum with a deliberate approach during their first 2 seasons together, but Gannon was fired after it all crashed down this season. Quarterback Kyler Murray is owed $36.8 million in guarantees in 2026. The Cardinals could absorb that if they preferred to release him. Considering the lack of quarterback options on the market, though, the Cardinals could still conceivably ride it out one more year with Murray.
No.
Arizona hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years. It has had a winning record just once in the past decade. The Cardinals got 1 8th place vote, 3 9th place votes, and 6 last place votes.
Sam, have the Cardinals officially hit rock bottom in the NFL?
Well, if they hit rock bottom, it wasn't a big bounce.
More like a thud.
Let's face it, if you had 32 teams looking for a coach and you had any experts ranking the opportunities, the Cardinals would be 32nd. This is a factory of sadness.
Yeah.
We're consistently underwhelming, got a losing culture. Last week in the podcast, we went through a number of reasons why this is such a crappy job, and it's all owner related. I mean, so they have the least amount of wins over 4 years. Well, guess what? They hold the record for the most regular season losses in NFL history with 826. The team that comes closest is Detroit was 717. Nothing's going to change. Rock bottom, it's always going to be rock bottom when you have a Bidwill steering the ship, unfortunately.
Yeah. Kyle?
I was a little surprised the Browns didn't end up lower than them. Like, if I were to create my straw poll, I would probably say the Browns would be last. The Cardinals would be second to last. Dolphins. I mean, the Raiders one is weird. I mean, the Raiders is a truly awful job to take, but you get the number one pick in the draft. And so I'm sure someone's going to talk themselves into, Fernando Mendoza is going to turn everything around in Las Vegas. But outside of that, I think they're no better than the Cardinals. But right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a collection of guys at the bottom, basically. I mean, most of the time you can infer a team that fired their coach is not going in the right direction. That's just a safe assumption to make. Of the group that has fired their coaches this year, the Cardinals, Raiders, and Browns, I think, are all kind of at the bottom of the undesirables, shall we say. And specifically as it relates to the wins and losses from the last few years, in theory, you should say, well, you theoretically have a lot of talent and you could have a quick turnaround like Canales in Carolina or Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, which, if you were doing that straw poll a couple of years ago, you would have said those are the organizations at the very bottom. But it doesn't feel that way in Arizona right now. It doesn't feel like you have this giant collection of talent and they just need the right leader going in the right direction. So in that sense, it feels like maybe you are at your rock bottom, although this is a low bar to grasp. I guess I'd still rather be the Cardinals than the Browns, but it's still pretty close to rock bottom.
The Browns have money to spend. Depending on what happens with Kyler,
right.
There's no cap money. There's no money to spend. And one thing about the Haslams, even though they don't know what the hell they're doing and are meddlers, they spend money. They want to win. The only benefit a coach has coming into this job is that they're certainly not in a win now situation. There isn't a coach alive who's ever been alive who's going to coach this team anywhere near the playoffs next year. None. Not with the cap situation and not with the lack of interest and aggressiveness that this owner has. That's why he made it clear, and that's why there are whispers across the league in a number of different publications that Bidwill's not going to spend any money on a coach, and he's going to spend even less money on a coaching staff. Doesn't that sound familiar? How'd that work out last time? Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, the guys who we need to change the culture, change the stature, change everything about this organization, and everything in this organization needs to be changed. Those guys make $20 million a year. You're not even going to come close to that. You're going to get second-round coaches who are eager to prove themselves, just like Jonathan Gannon, who may not be ready. It doesn't matter whether they're ready or not. They're not getting paid big money. Bidwill was asked if he would pay top dollar. He absolutely refuted it.
Well, he didn't answer the question.
Well, that's right. He said, I'm not going to negotiate a contract.
Right, I'm not going to negotiate with you.
What does that tell you? I want to win. I'm going to pay top dollar for top coaches. Did you hear that come out of his mouth? Never.
No.
Rock bottom is exactly what a coach has got to work with coming in here. I don't know who it is. I feel sorry for him already.
Oh boy. Well, there's so much to talk about there because first of all, let's talk about the money thing. All right. The Kingsbury money's been offset by his salary pretty much. People are making much more of a big deal out of that. But we'll have to, sort of go back to that the year of 2022 when things took just when events took a skydive and a deep plunge downward from the the optimism of the 11-win playoff season. Bidwill made a decision that I said, and I didn't think I was an Einstein trying to figure this out, that if he were to cave and give Kyler his bag, when Kyler hadn't finished one season strong, had injury issues here and there that hampered his play, made comments like, if I'm not 100%, I'm not going to play, made comments like, some games I don't want to run. There were just some things about Kyler wanting to play on his own terms that were troubling. The whole, I don't want to have to be Superman. Look at Mendoza. It takes a Superman in football to win football games. And if you don't want to embrace that role, you should have gone and played baseball. I mean, look at Mahomes. He's a Superman. Look at Josh Allen. He's a Superman. Look at these guys that bust their butts out there to try to win. There's part of this job where you have to be a hero at the end of games to win. And not just every now and then. You got to do it repeatedly, like Sam Darnold did this year. Sam Darnold won a whole bunch of games in the fourth quarter, and some of those games he was pretty awful for 3 quarters, but he got it together. You have to have that mentality and the determination to do it. But so what I said was, with the locker room that was now divided, with quitting on a playoff game, with a horrendous showing in a playoff game, of just throwing the ball away and just, trying to, get 3 and outs to just get back on the bench. I said, would it be a decision if he were to cave, the message it would send to the football team itself, that we're going to elevate him way above all of you when he has shown that he quit on the team in LA and he hasn't played quality football past October in his entire career. I mean, these are the things you want 2 more years to try to figure out before you dump $230.5 million on an undeserving player. And that's why, the message, when you send a message that deflates a locker room, that makes people go, what the frick? Are you kidding? It's going to destroy morale. I don't care who the coach is. I mean, we had a playoff caliber roster in 2022. And that holdout and all the offensive players hold out, Hopkins and all his antics, it all took the whole thing down. And it cost us a coaching staff. And now we're on our second coaching staff being ushered out the door. I mean, that was just a god-awful decision by Bidwill's part, and he's still paying the price for it, literally and figuratively, because as you see, we need $36.8 million cap hit this year, guaranteed on Kyler Murray. And the part of that whole thing was, well, with the limited quarterback options, Kyler, it might be worth it to bring Kyler back for 1 year. You can't bring him back for 1 year. By March 15th, you have to decide, that has huge ramifications to give him the bonus money that kicks in on his 2027 contract. So it's not a 1-year deal. You're basically anteing him up for 2 years. And like you said, Sam, I mean, what are the prospects of the Cardinals challenging in the NFC West next year? I mean, given that now they'll have their 3rd new coaching staff in 4 years. I mean, we're going to need a little bit of patience to get this thing back to where it needs to be. And we're going to need to get a coach in here to uncoach the Cardinals defense of all these bad habits and passiveness and poor tackling and lack of cohesion. Someone's got to come in here and clean all that up and get rid of the bad habits. So, and then, so you brought up the huge point. What does it take? Listen to these figures. Coaches who were hired last year. Liam Cohen, you know what the Jags gave him? A rookie head coach, $12 million.
Yeah.
And he got to pick his own GM, which I think is a trend that is coming in the NFL. It has started with him last year. And this is the very reason why I was begging Bidwill to let go of Monti too and leave it open so that one of the main attractions could be, all right, I could come in with my own guy and be in lockstep with my own guy. But Bidwill doesn't see that as an advantage. And now he's stuck at rock bottom because, here's the thing with Monti, unfortunately. Monti shot himself and the organization in the foot in two ways. He broke NFL rules to hire Gannon. And then he, embarrassed another GM on, putting a viral thing out about a privileged draft trade conversation, which now, has kind of put a stigma on Monti. He's now a persona non grata among NFL execs and GMs. It's no wonder why the guys on the panel are like, because Monti has something to do with that on top of Bidwill. And now the two are sort of perceived as one. But here's another thing. Mike Vrabel, you know what the Pats paid him? Try $14 million.
Yeah.
How about Aaron Glenn? $12 million.
Wow.
Okay. How about Ben Johnson? You want to turn a program around? His salary is $13 million.
Whoa.
Okay.
I can't believe they gave Aaron Glenn $14 million. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Right. The ones who are low were Schottenheimer at 4.5.
Yeah.
And then Kellen Moore at 6.
Yeah.
So you get what you get. But I think Kellen Moore is a bargain at 6, to tell you the truth. I think he's going to get things moving. I thought he showed really good signs with Tyler Shuck at quarterback. I would rank them way above the Cardinals where they are in their development right now than where the Cardinals are. And the coaching is good. I mean, Kellen Moore is a proven NFL coordinator who does good things with quarterbacks, and it's showing already. So, and then in our own division, Sean McVay, 15. Shanahan, 14. Mike McDonald, this one surprised me. I thought the Seahawks would have got him on the cheap. 9.5 for a guy with, just coming back from college, 1 year of that says something too. It's a vote of confidence. Like, we're gonna give you a nice kick in salary here because we believe in you. And look what that has brought to the NFC West. I mean, I think between Vrabel and Mike McDonald, there's your NFL Coach of the Year.
Yep.
And probably what happens this weekend will determine who the leader is going to the Super Bowl. So there's the thing: is if you want a competitive program, you got to pay for it. What you pay for is what you get, typically. So right away, like your argument right there is that, well, if you're just going to lowball people, who's going to want to come here anyway, on top of all the other BS?
Well, listening to you, Walt, it finally occurred to me why Bidwill didn't fire Monti. So he didn't want to pay his salary. He didn't want to pay 2 GM salaries. And you know what? That's probably the answer. That is probably why Monty's still working for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure these coaching candidates can sniff that out too.
For sure.
Right.
Given Walter's guy, Mike McDaniel, essentially is not interviewing for the Cardinals job. He got a job. Turned down the Browns job.
Yeah, he's going to work for, it's almost fait accompli.
Your Chargers.
Going to work for the Chargers.
He's going to be on your Chargers. You may have to get your loyalty back in place down in it's down in Los Angeles, but
no.
Hey,
the owner would have to sell for me to ever consider it.
Well, he just made a great hire there.
No, as long as it's him, I can't get back on board with the Chargers. He's
been a terrible owner. I don't blame you, Kyle. He's been a terrible owner.
Yeah, what he did to San Diego.
What he's paying for.
Yeah.
You know what he's paying Harbaugh, don't you?
Oh, big money.
Yeah, I think it's like 15.
Yeah, big money.
Yeah, Harbaugh is one of the 10 highest paid coaches in the NFL.
And he deserves it.
Give me that kind of owner who's willing to pay. I can put up with the other stuff. Because now you have Harbaugh in place, and they probably want to hold on to Jesse Minter. Now you got Mike McDaniel on the other side. Ooh. Now here's the thing I've said about McDaniel and Cliff is that it's too bad the teams didn't hold on to them long enough to see them with another quarterback other than Kyler and Tua. Because, look at it this way. We've seen from Cliff, he can get premier production out of Colt McCoy. I mean, Colt McCoy's wins all on the road with each team in the NFC West were almost perfect games. And people want to scoff at that, but Colt McCoy played on schedule in Cliff's offense. We saw it with Jaden Daniels last year. Jaden Daniels, 14 wins with a rookie quarterback, and all those comeback wins at the end of games. This year with the injuries and all that, I don't know what in the world happened, but I think Cliff went in there and challenged him on the McLaurin contract and said, "You're screwing the team if you don't do something about it now." And I think they took exception to that, or something. Some sort of rift happened where, as an offensive coach, Cliff had seen it before. When your players hold out and it's a drama the whole offseason and everyone's worrying about McLaurin and no one's, got their focus on the OTAs, it's a recipe for disaster, which is exactly what happened in Washington. But getting back to what we were talking about salaries is that, Dan Bickley wrote an article, and I saw his Bickley blast on this, where I think it's really fascinating that Bick pulled this one out of the fire, is that, he's touting Kenny Dillingham as a potential savior in Arizona if he makes the jump from ASU to the Cardinals. And Kyle, would you read the first part of this? I'll tell you when we can stop it, but go ahead. This is fascinating to me.
This is Dan Bickley's Arizona sports story. As a young football player growing up in Arizona, Kenny Dillingham chose a vanity plate for his very first automobile, Cards for LF Life. It's proof that Dillingham once had strong feelings for another football team in the Valley, and not just the one he currently coaches at Arizona State, which leads to an obvious, pertinent question guaranteed to raise eyebrows and tempers. Should the Cardinals make a call? Should they speak with Dillingham about their head coaching vacancy? Or would that be bad form, a breach of hometown etiquette? Because of his age, 35, and youthful appearance, a guy who can easily blend with students storming the field in Tempe, Dillingham seems better suited for the college game. But we all know he is special at his job with wisdom and vision that belies his age, with an irresistible force of personality that commands a room. Sean McVay was 30 when he became head coach of the Rams. Mike McDonald was 36 when he took over the Seahawks. Kyle Shanahan was 37 when hired by the 49ers. Maybe Dillingham is exactly the prodigy savant the Cardinals so badly need, the candidate they didn't know they were looking for. But would he listen?
Okay. Pause. Now let's go to our Arizona savant and ask Sam, what's your visceral reaction to this?
Kenny Dillingham is not going to work for the Cardinals. And ASU, I think they're projected to have $15 million in NIL money this year.
Yeah.
It's a different financial world than the NFL salary cap.
Yeah.
But he may have more money to spend than Bidwill is willing to spend.
Well, you know what his salary is per annum now, given the new contract?
Kenny's? I do not know.
It's 7.5 a year.
Yeah, well, okay. So there you go.
Doesn't that
there's your answer.
You think Bidwill's going to trump that?
No, that means Kenny's going to go to work for less money for a pain in the ass idiot owner who doesn't want to win.
Oh boy.
If Kenny leaves ASU, it's going to be for a really, really big time program.
Okay.
He turned down Michigan.
That's right. He
turned down Michigan.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, that's fascinating too. Like, that's hard to believe. So,
well, I guess I shouldn't say turned down. He used the Michigan job to get a contract extension.
Did.
In fairness, he didn't specifically say no to Michigan. It's just Michigan was interested, and then 2 days later, he had a contract extension at ASU.
Yeah. And 7.5 is, as high as Bidwill's going as on a head coach, I believe. So cha-ching for him, and and for Sun Devil fans and having him here. But then when I was thinking about the logistics of this, if you brought in a Dillingham, yes, it would create all kinds of a new buzz, no question about it, and that would be exciting. The problem I had now, though, is okay, we're tapping back into college. What kind of ties would Dillingham have to NFL coaches? Who could he get as coordinators and NFL, staffers, coaching staff? And I looked at high and wide across, his bio and his previous jobs, and I was looking for some sort of a connection, and I couldn't really find one. And so logistically, especially with all these coaching hires, we're now gobbling up the best coordinator. Now, once again, the Cardinals are seeing prior head coaches, leapfrogging over any thought of going to the Cardinals in order to take a coordinator's job instead, like Brian Flores did in the last cycle. And now we're seeing, we saw Todd Monken, which I thought would get more interest, head coaching interest. He just signed to stay with Harbaugh. He's one of the better coordinators in the league. And then now we have McDaniel now with the Chargers in LA. So next guy is Brian Daboll. And I'm thinking to myself, why aren't we talking to him?
Right.
He's like BA. Right. He's crusty. He's fiery. He's a quarterback whisperer. I mean, the job he did with Jackson Dart, I thought was excellent. Of course, you credit him for getting Josh Allen's career off and running. And I never thought Allen could throw as accurately as he has in the NFL. But Daboll got him there. And
he also helped Daniel Jones's career.
He did, and he got Jones to the playoffs. But that just sort of, we saw the Cardinals beat the Giants. Jones couldn't get rid of the ball in the pocket. He just kept it and kept it and kept. Didn't Hassan Reddick have like 5 sacks against him in one game? I mean, it was insane. And I could see the Giants fans' frustration of like, get rid of the ball. But and at that time too, to Daniel Jones' credit, he was playing through a leg injury, so he was hampered by that too. So, but Brian Daboll would make. I mean, guy's got a chip on his shoulder. He is. He's the closest thing to BA. He's got all that experience of play calling. Closest thing to BA I can think of.
Here's a guy, Daboll, who's being considered as a top candidate for the Buffalo job, which is top job. Great quarterback.
Right.
He's been rumored to maybe going to work for the Eagles. I think the Titans, along with Salah. And then Brady has talked about pairing him up with Flores as the OC. Meanwhile, we didn't even ask the guy for an interview.
Right. And he'd almost have to be the last guy standing like BA was for that to happen. And the Cardinals
even an
out of
interview.
options. Yeah. So the first thing that's got to change is whoever they hire, they're going to have to, and I had said this about Salah, was that if you're going to bring him in, you got to pay him.
Right.
You got to pay him a competitive salary, which meant doing way more than you have. And people were understandably saying, like, that's not going to happen. I said, so why are we talking to him? You're not going to lowball a guy like that. You're just not. I mean, and they say, but he failed as the Jets coach. Yeah, but look at the circumstances. I mean, he didn't fail on his side of the ball. Jets haven't played that well, that good a defense in a long time. So you have that going on, for you. But you'd have to solve the other stuff on the offensive side of the ball, and he didn't have long enough time to do that. And people get.
And Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. They'd lost.
Yeah, that was bum luck. I mean, back in a day when he probably would have had a really good year, particularly with the Jets' weapons, Bryce Hall, Wilson, wide receiver. They had players. Breece Hall. So Breece Hall. So you got to. If we're going to really get this thing right, you have to be able to, offer the money. And as I have said all along, is you have to be able to move on from Monti if the coach in question wants his own guy. And I think that's very reasonable. Now you'd have to end up paying Monti, but is it just total coincidence that Bidwill ends up paying people? I mean, look at his track record. Look at all the people he's paying. Terry McDonough, right? Okay. Yeah. Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
Steve Kine. These are all like, it's too bad he didn't have, prenups with these guys, and NDA agreements. Because it's just ridiculous. All the people Kyler, he's paying through the nose. And now he's on the verge of having to let go Kyler. And if he brings back Kyler, here it is. It's another 3-year loss. And it's just would be, I made a quote that because Bidwill and Ossenfort do more waffling than a Belgian IHOP. I mean, it's possible. It is that if some coach comes in and says, I'll try it with Kyler again, that they would even listen to that at this point, knowing that this is a quarterback twice scorned by their organization with the homework clause and the silent benching. How emotionally is he going to come back into a situation? I don't care who's coaching. How emotionally would he be invested in coming back to the Cardinals next year? Try 0. And it should be 0. Not that it would takes 2 to tango. But in Kyler's situation, they've screwed up with the contract clause and made it a debacle. And then with the silent benching, they pulled the plug and said, that's it. You don't get to come back from that. You just don't. And if you think psychologically you can do that, oh, Kyler, we suddenly like you again. And here's the other thing. How would that look to the players in the locker room? Who has won over the locker room? Who has won over the locker room?
Are you going with Jacoby?
Yeah.
Oh, clearly Jacoby. Clearly.
Love him.
Oh, yeah.
They love him.
His wide receivers sure love him.
Yes. Now, we all can agree we need competition in that quarterback room, and there are ways to do it. People act like Kyler Murray's the last quarterback on planet Earth. He's not. There are all kinds of things you can work out. You can make a trade for somebody you like. You can sign someone in free agency for someone you like, and you can draft somebody.
So you think the Cards are going – so you figure a good backup, right? Like Jacoby's making $6 million a year. Yeah. You think the Cardinals are going to be aggressive, pay $6-7 million for a backup to no.
Here's what you want to know what I would do? I would offer the Eagles a 3rd-round pick for Tanner McKee. Now, here's the thing. So he's still on a rookie deal. So you're getting him in his 4th season. So it's like a look-see. And I think it's worth the gamble of a 3rd because I don't think a 4th is going to get it done. They like McKee a lot. I think they're worried now they're going to have to be without him after next season because the rookie contract's up and he'll be a free agent. And he'll be a highly coveted free agent. McKee and what he's done with the playing time he's had in Philadelphia has become a Eagles fan's favorite. And guess what? He was Michael Wilson's college quarterback. Oh, the synchronicity of that. And he was Elijah Higgins's college quarterback. I love that, the sound of that, and he's a pocket guy. He's got good size. He's got the arm. I think they got him in like the 5th or 6th round. What a bargain. But they develop their quarterbacks.
We don't.
No, but this next coach hopefully will. And I'm leaning more and more towards your guys' suggestions. I quoted both of you on Twitter this week on a couple occasions. I said, Sam and Kyle really believe this should be an offensive-minded head coach coming in this year with hopefully an experienced defensive coordinator. And I think more and more when I think of that, I think there's real validity. Unfortunately, it looks like Joe Brady, who Kyle made such a great pitch for, has already had 2 interviews with the Ravens. That isn't looking auspicious, but it could be if the Ravens go in a different direction. And I think Brady's a guy who might be interested in a head coaching job, now rather than later. So maybe that can come back to us and Kyle will be, our Nostradamus.
Brady's going to get a job in this cycle with the lack of offensive coaches and the number of jobs. He's going to get one of those jobs.
And Kubiak, right?
Yeah, I don't know who Kubiak is going to go to, but he's good. If he should have multiple job offers, I would guess.
I'd say he's, Ravens are
once this season is over, he's going to get a head coaching job in 24 hours. And I think the only reason the Ravens haven't filled that position is because they're waiting for Clint Kubiak to take the job.
Right.
It's either him or Flores. If it were Flores, they would have already hired him.
Yeah, I think Flores to the Steelers looks like a wrap.
Yeah. And
sorry, were you saying the Ravens or the Raiders?
I'm sorry, the Ravens. The Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And because Lamar needs a babysitter. Lamar needs a coach to turn him around like Kubiak did Darnold.
Well, the reason why we won't get Kubiak is three teams. Yeah. Buffalo.
Yeah.
They're in play. Baltimore. They're in play. And Las Vegas. Las Vegas is very much in play.
Yeah.
They love the idea of Kubiak with Mendoza. And
exactly.
And Tom Brady's there and all that. So you've got there. So if the Cardinals think they're going to get Kubiak by waiting, that would be a mistake. That's not going to happen. Nope. And so, but if Kubiak gets the Buffalo job, for example, it wouldn't surprise me if the Ravens go to Jesse Minter, whom I think they really, really love. That wouldn't shock me. Then, is Brady going to Pittsburgh? I think Flores is going to clean that one up. Would Brady go to Cleveland? Maybe. But it's looking like Cleveland might be hiring Jim Schwartz, who's making quite a pitch.
Yes.
And I think that he deserves it over there. Then you have Las Vegas. But if they were the ones who, so they'd be in play. And a Brady with a Brady could be a Brady bunch in Las Vegas. Let me tell you a story. And throw in Marsha in the deal. Marsha.
Do a whole lot worse, yeah.
Marsha. So, being the last guy standing, what are the Cardinals going to do? I've got some thoughts. I'm sure my co-hosts have thoughts. I put an article up this week. I'm saying if you can't beat them, join them. In that, let's poach from the NFC West. There are so many good candidates. And let's just get inside, intel. Like, I'll just go down this list right now. Mike McDaniel's gone. Salah's gone. Clay Kubiak, I'd take him in a minute. He's a Kubiak. What can go wrong?
Where I'm hesitant is that I don't think he's ever been a play caller. Which
I don't care. It's in his DNA. And he's had inside look the last 5 years with Mike Shanahan. Who would know how to defend a Mike Shanahan offense? He would. Get ahead of the curve. This guy's going to be a head coach.
You're talking about Kubiak?
He's talking about the brother. He's talking about the Clay. Clay, who's
Clay Kubiak.
The OC in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the same thing with Mike LaFleur. He doesn't call the plays.
I like Mike LaFleur.
I'd take him like that.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Me too.
But Mike LaFleur did call the plays with the Jets. So at the very least, he has play calling experience.
Right.
Yes, he did. And then Shieldhouse, Nate, I'd take him. He's on the Sean McVay staff. He's a passing game coordinator. Look what they're doing with their passing game. Let's bring that to Arizona. I'd take it in a heartbeat. I'd take Hakeem Morris in a heartbeat. But we're talking offense, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. Thomas Brown. I love this guy.
Yeah,
I love him. I'd take him. So, and of course, Clint, but I think we don't have a shot at him. Rick Dennison is going to go wherever Clint goes, I think.
Yep.
So they're joined at the hip. They make each other work. So, but there are candidates there right now that are ripe fruit. All you have to do is pick them. But even if they're younger guys like Clay Kubiak, get him a GM he's comfortable with. Or Mike LaFleur. Get one of those Rams execs. I've outlined this in several articles thus far. There are guys in their front office that matched with, like a Mike LaFleur with, I'm trying to think of the guy I love in LA that's not, of course, Les Snead. It's one of his assistants. There are actually two of them that are really, really good. Their names are escaping me right now. But get him one of those. So you really sew this thing up. And here is often the case with Bidwill and his GM. It's always a cat and mouse. This is why he's got to get out of the way. Because, the big craze now is that Vance Joseph's the guy. Right? So, and Jeremy Clough on Arizona Sports posted an article today of the outcry from fans as to why they don't want Vance Joseph. He even cited my tweet where I said Vance is highly deserving, but hiring him would feel like more of the same, and it would be a more auspicious thing for Vance if he got a fresh start with another team. But I think on both ends, it's probably better, and if he has to wait another year, it's not going to be painful to stay with the Broncos and that defense. So, eventually I think he's going to land on his feet somewhere. But coming back to Arizona, given the history, it's just not a great look. And it just looks like Bidwill's just going with the, whatever's easiest. And, it doesn't have to be like that. So my point is that, we could get one of the better offensive minds. If he hasn't called plays before, that's okay. Because they've been in on every play that's been called with two of the all-time greats in McVay and Shanahan. They also give us an advantage of knowing the inner workings of those offenses that'll give our defensive guys a better inside view as to how to defend them. I was listening to Nick Rouse, which I think is interesting that Gannon's getting DC interviews, and there's no word of Rallis anywhere. And Gannon has said that Rallis is better at calling defenses than I am. That was his reason for giving Nick the job of DC. So, but with Rallis, his press conferences second time around with both the Rams and the 49ers, he's wonderful explaining how offenses work. He just sat there starry-eyed in total awe and had to admit this is really hard to defend. All the different looks, all the different tendencies, all the way they disguise what they do and do it so well. Their motions, just their motions alone. He said it's just to try to do this in 1 week. And this is after having already played him once. And both those games we got whacked. But it didn't surprise me because it just seemed like Nick was overwhelmed. And I wouldn't blame me if he was. I don't think, at this point in his career, he was in a position to be able to X and O with those guys. I think eventually he might be. He's a bright guy. I really like him personally. I think he's good with players, except Elijah Jones, so I'll never forgive him for it. But, I mean, Rouse has a future. But it's interesting no one's mentioning his name when for 2 years everyone's saying this guy's going to be a head coach in year three, after year three. And so that's the thing, is that we can tap into our own NFC West and pull out somebody who's got a bright future, who's young, and hopefully he could be our head coach he could be a Mike Tomlin and be it for the next close to 20 years. This is what the Steelers do. You say, grab a young guy. I know, but you have to, I can't get so cynical that there's no hope whatsoever. But, and that's why I think the key piece is bring in a package of a new GM with the young guy so that he is in lockstep with what he wants and not having to learn what Monti wants and, back and forth. I think getting in lockstep from the beginning and asking Bidwill to do his business stuff and stay out of the football operations would be brilliant. And it would mean anything could happen as long as Bidwill's, eager to pay for it. No, right? Go ahead, Sam. Unload.
We've got a wish list, we've got a laundry list, and we really have to be prepared to be underwhelmed by this hiring. I don't see, if you pull out of people they've interviewed, you pull Kubiak out, who's going to get a better job. The Bills coach isn't coming here. He's not leaving the Bills organization, going to work for Michael Bidwill. That'll be the end of his coaching career if he does that. So we really have to set our sights lower, because I do think there are some good candidates. And as I've said all along, no matter who we hire, it will be an improvement over what we had. But the fact that we're not even talking to a Brian Dable, we're not even talking to a Mike McCarthy.
Sean McDermott.
Well, Sean McDermott's not taking this job. No. He's just not going to take this job. Same with Clint Kubiak. So we really have to look at some of the younger guys. And like I said, there's some good candidates. There's some good options. Thomas Brown is an interesting hire. I love any of the guys you picked who have been working in the NFC West. The question is, they've been watching the Cardinals for the last 3 years, and they know what their prospects are going to be against the division the next 3 years. Would they even want that job? If you're an up-and-coming coach in the NFL, if you just look at history, Arizona Cardinal history, this is a dead-end job. No one with a bright future is coming to work for less money for an idiot.
So who do you predict? What's going to be our underwhelming hire?
Well, I think you have to look at the list of people we've interviewed. I like the LaFleur kid, who's been an OC with McVay, even though he hasn't called. We're probably going to wind up. It's an interesting deal you've got if you bring VJ in, okay?
Right.
And he brings in, here it comes, Matt Nagy as his OC.
Yep.
That's not a bad coaching staff. Nagy's been a head coach. He's called plays. He's Andy Reid student.
Yep.
He's disciple. He was there the last couple of years. He's burned his bridge in KC. He's gone in KC. So he's looking for a job, and he's looking to call plays, and he's looking to get back into the head coaching ranks like VJ. That wouldn't be a bad coaching staff.
Well, the hue and cry.
Yeah, I don't think Bidwill cares. Like I said, nobody is going to be hired here to win now. If you really want to know the best thing that happened to Arizona Cardinals is they're in really, really good position to get a top quarterback in next year's draft. That's the best thing that could happen to him. It's like Mike Brown in Cincinnati. He might be the worst. He might be as bad an owner as Bidwill. He knows a hell of a lot more about football than Bidwill, but he's a pretty lousy owner. And the only reason they're respectable at all right now is because they got lucky in the Joe Burrow sweepstakes.
Yep.
So maybe that's what's going to happen. That's all I'm going to hope for. Is next season we're going to be in the mix for a really good quarterback in a really good quarterback class. Good quarterback fixes a lot. Yeah, especially when you actually spend money and hire a coach to mentor him and bring him along.
Before I get to Kyle, I just want to offer a comment to that. I think it would be a huge mistake of the Cardinals to try to tank again. With another new head coach. I think if they do that again, no one will ever take him seriously ever again. And they will continue to anger the football gods and their own players who deserve so much better than coaches being so Teflon like Gannon was. Oh, we lost, but it's cool. We're heading in the right direction and everything's hunky-dory. And, there were some positives in the game. You cannot afford. I don't care who we hire. It's got to be with a let's try to win, do the best we can with what we got now, and not try to, because here's the other thing.
I agree with you.
Yep.
But let's take the top coach available. Let's take a Clint Kubiak. You've got 6 games against division opponents next season, right? How many of those are they going to win? So
I don't know, because we don't know who they're going to pick up. There's an off season ahead of us. We can determine that then. But here's the thing: we've talked about this on Red Rain. Like, if we get a Kubiak, I don't care if it's Clint or Clay in the head coach position. The Mannings aren't going to go, no, we're not going to Arizona.
No,
that's
I agree
a huge deal. If you're looking down the road and, just somehow we end up with a spot to get Arch Manning, there's a huge possibility. We know this already through history, that if it was the Cardinals with Matt Nagy and Vance Joseph and Bidwill and Ossenfort, the Manning family is going to go timeout. Let's just make it clear to the Cardinals now. We'll go back into the portal.
Yep.
If you draft us, which is now an option.
Yep.
So if you draft us, we're not going. We're going to go back into the portal. And by the way, it's Arch Manning, so we'll probably get like $10 million.
Yep.
So
I totally agree with that. But we're going to have 6 losses next year in the division. I don't care who the coach is. How many? And we're going to play a last place schedule. I don't think they have to try to tank. I think we're going to be terrible. I think you might be right, but I don't want to concede that now. I don't want to. I think the Texans fans could have conceded that back when they hired D'Amico Ryans. They had a shit roster. It was awful. And look at what D'Amico Ryans did. You never know. You never know. And D'Amico Ryans also had C.J. Stroud, the top pick in the draft, to help do that.
He did, but exactly. But as we can see right now, C.J. Stroud is no world beater.
No, he's not.
He's
not. You better get the right kid.
He does enough to help you win.
Right. You better get the right kid. And I'm just saying, given the state of affairs, given the fact that we're stuck with Monti, given the fact that we'll have no money to sign top free agents and guarantee salaries, I don't think they'll have to try to tank. I think we're going to have a tough, very, very tough year. We won 3 games this year. I don't think we're going to win 6.
Well, what you may not be factoring in too is the money we can create on the cap by releasing 5 or 6 of the players that we talked about last week. We can create a lot of money on that end of the cap. But
Well, they're going to have to.
I just don't want to concede already we're going to suck. I can't do that anymore. I'm too fucking old. I can't.
I'm older than you.
Accept. I'm not going to go into the season accepting like we're just going to fucking suck every fucking year.
Well, I want to see what you want to see is some stability. You want to see kids who can tackle. You want to see kids put in the position to improve, and you want to see good quality, smart play calling, coaching decisions. And I think we'll have that, even with the VJ Nagy combination. Like I said, we will be better coached next year. However, given we're in the NFC West, we're going to have a tough season. This is a season to put everything back together and then look towards the future. I apologize for it. I don't have very high expectations for next year.
I got you. I totally understand where you're coming from.
We were in better shape when we fired Cliff.
It's just that I don't want to go gentle into that good night. Yeah. I really don't. I don't want to like get my mindset like we just have to suck forever. Or at least for another year. I can't. Yeah. I have to wipe the slate clean and usher in some hope. Because otherwise it's just so painful. I mean, without hope, there's, it just makes me not want to watch and not want to pay attention. And, we have 19 wins in the last 4 years with a $230.5 million quarterback.
Yeah. Who
leveraged this whole freaking thing and took down two coaching staffs.
Yep.
So, the trauma, all that, I want to put in the rear view mirror, and I want to be cruising down Sunset Boulevard and thinking
top down
green lights. Like now we're going to, and I'm with you on, we're going to be better coached. I'm with you on, we're going to see players tackle better. I'm with you on all of those things. I just don't want to concede we're already going to go 0-6 in the division, and we're going to have, we're going to have another really bad losing season because every year look at the Jaguars. I mean, they were sucking for so long, and they got the right coach in there, and suddenly look at them.
And they have a very good, aggressive owner.
Yeah. Well, and who did the smart thing of saying that, yeah, Liam, we're going to pay you $12.5 million.
Right. Bring in your own GM.
And, let's get you a guy you want, and let's make you feel secure.
So is Bidwill going to pay Clint Kubiak $12 million and bring in his own GM? Nope.
Well, he should.
Well, of course he should.
Right. And I don't want to, this is by choice by Bidwill.
Of course.
He can pull strings and get loans, whatever it frickin' takes. He's an NFL owner. He's got to stop ripping us off.
Well,
and or what we really need to do is stand up to him and not buy tickets, not buy merch, not buy anything, not buy into anything that he's doing. And I'm prepared to do that. This Christmas, I didn't buy any Cardinals merch for myself or anybody. I'm boycotting the Cardinals myself.
I haven't bought Cardinal merchandise since they fired Dave McGinnis and dropped Jake Plummer. No, I haven't. I won't. That goes right into his pocket. When I used to go to the games, I'd eat before and after.
Oh, I love it. You're the best. You are the best. So let's get over to Kyle. Kyle, what's on your mind?
Okay, so first of all, that is the way all fans should operate. These are transactional businesses, even though you're putting your emotions into the results of the games, right? It's essentially a transactional relationship with your sports team, even though people hope it's emotional.
Right.
Okay, so in terms of the coaching hire you were talking about, and how if you're going to get turned down by these guys, which, by the way, it looks like Brian Daboll, it's either he's going to get the Bills job or he's going to go be the Titans offensive coordinator. That was reported this morning. Same thing with Raheem Morris. It's like Raheem Morris will either get the Cardinals job or go be the Packers defensive coordinator, it looks like. So, again, it just kind of is one of those guys are just not exactly in on the Cardinals, and Raheem Morris might pull himself out of the search, just realizing it's not going to go his way type of situation. So if you can't get any of those guys, you either, again, do the Vance Joseph or the Matt Nagy or the Mike Kafka, someone who is on the outs of whatever place they're at and looking for any job and any chance to be an NFL head coach again, or for the first time. I don't know if Kafka is really at the front of the line for any of these jobs or anything like that. So you either go with one of those guys or you keep going younger. You keep trying to get someone who is maybe not ready for the job yet, but potentially has higher upside. I know that's kind of the direction Cleveland is going. I know you mentioned the Jim Schwartz of it all, but the guy they've interviewed twice also is, was it Grant Oldinsky, the guy for the Jaguars?
Right.
Who would
Young
be,
guy,
I think,
30. Yeah.
Yeah, I think younger by like a week or so, but technically younger than McVay when McVay got the Rams job. And that seems to be the direction that Cleveland is going, since they're in a similar situation where no one seems to want their job. You go younger, you go someone who maybe isn't ready, but you have to take a chance on the possibility that they will grow into becoming a great NFL head coach, or you go with a stopgap coach, someone who is on a 1 or 2 year prove it contract with very little intention of them getting a second contract type of situation, which is probably the Vance Joseph, is probably the Raheem Morris.
Vance won't take a 2-year deal.
No.
You frame it like a 4-year deal, but it's essentially a 2 or 3 year deal, like a team option in a 4th year. But again, you limit your pool of candidates if you go that route. This is what the Cowboys did last year with Brian Schottenheimer. They essentially gave him a 4-year deal. The 4th year was a team option, and at the end of year 2, we'll come back and reevaluate. But Brian Schottenheimer was never going to get a head coaching job anywhere. So Brian Schottenheimer was like, sure, I'll take it. What the heck?
Yeah.
And so those are your options. If you're conceding that the 4 quality candidates that are still around, McDermott, Brady, Daboll, Kubiak. If you're conceding that those guys will not take your job, you either got to hire someone that is below the job or doesn't have prospects of being an NFL head coach in the future, or you go younger. The other guy, and I've always said you should hire from one of those 6 foundational organizations, which the Rams and Niners also classify as that. The guy, was it Shieldhouse with the Rams?
Yeah.
Is just kind of interesting just because of all his work with quarterbacks over the years.
Right.
Again, total wild card, he's interviewed for a job or 2 here, but is probably more likely to go be an offensive coordinator than a head coach. But that's the type of, I'm not saying him specifically, but that's the type of candidate you go out and interview. That's the type of candidate you bring in and ask for their vision. I think that's probably the way you go if you're just looking around and nobody of the quality candidates wants to take your job.
No, I think that's where we are. I think that's exactly where we are.
It's what Cleveland's doing. I'm not saying you should follow the Cleveland Browns model at all, but that Cleveland is in a similar situation where McDaniels turned down their job and other people are turning down interviews. And that seems to be the direction they're pushing in. So maybe that's the direction the Cardinals go. Although I don't love him, but Matt Nagy is not a total bum, okay? Like, I know it would be incredibly underwhelming if they hired Matt Nagy, but Matt Nagy is not just some bum who's looking for any job out there.
How about as an OC?
Yeah, totally fine. That might be where he ends up, but you know,
he needs to call plays. Yep, he needs a job where he calls plays so he can get himself back into contention as an HC.
And even though it didn't go great, Bears players had very good things to say about Nagy when he left the building in Chicago, compared to Eberflus, where they were like, "Thank God this asshole is out of here."
You know, the fans might also be delighted to hear that there are very strong rumors in Denver that if they are prepared to pay Vance top DC money, I'm talking in the $7 million range, to keep him. So if Vance Joseph leaves for less money to go work for Mike Bidwill, something's wrong with Vance Joseph. I'm sorry, something's wrong with Vance Joseph.
Or Vance Joseph just really wants to be a head coach. Again, like Vance, he's obviously done it already, but I don't know how many chances he's going to get.
And you can't blame him, but do you want to be a head coach for this organization? I mean, is that really an opportunity to really solidify your legacy as a great coach in the NFL?
Right.
I don't see it. And I don't think any head coach who's ever worked for the Arizona Cardinals has ever seen it.
Yeah. So if Vance does stay, I'm making a call for Jim Leonard for DC.
Yep. A lot of people are talking to Jim Leonard.
Right. Yeah. I was engaging with Ben Albright, who's a Broncos fan, and he covers the team some. And I had the hardest time getting him to admit that, he was just saying that I asked him point blank, do you see, if Vance leaves, is Leonard going to step right into the DC role? Albright wouldn't commit to that. He said he kept saying that Jim Leonard has other options out there. So, I was like saying, so then he was like, so I said, well, what if were you making the decision? Would you want him to succeed, Vance Joseph? And finally he said, well, yeah, I would like to see him. Yeah. And what was weird about that is I think the way he was responding to my questions about him is that he doesn't want to see the Broncos lose him, and
I don't want to see. I'd rather see the Broncos lose Vance than Jim Leonard.
There we go. I mean, so why are the Broncos saying they're going to raise Vance's salary?
If Sean Payton tells the Penners to keep Vance Joseph paying whatever they got to pay him, then that's the right move.
Right.
Who's going to second guess Sean Payton?
But is it one of those Cardinals puff you up moves to try to get you to believe this guy's so good you got to get him as a head coach?
Well, his agent should be doing that. I'll tell you what, his agent should be playing the Cardinals like a fiddle.
I mean,
but I think part of it too is it's kind of like the Gannon situation in Philadelphia, where it's like you're in the middle of a Super Bowl run. You don't want to have fractures in the team being united, so it's kind of just the thing you say is like, oh, we're going to do everything it takes to keep him. And I think once their season is over, Super Bowl or not, that's when the truth will kind of come out.
And
that's very good. That's a very good comment, Kyle.
Vance has got to hold his end of the bargain this weekend, and if they make the Super Bowl, so pressure's on.
That good against the Bills, his defense.
They had a rough game. But they got the turnovers, the biggest turnover of the game, in my opinion.
Crazy. And that's what's so frustrating for a fan of the Arizona Cardinals. We are seeing some of the best football ever, and we are nowhere near the mix. Yeah. It's so disappointing. It's so frustrating. It's just sad. It's just sad. I mean, our season was over months ago.
These were so exciting.
Tremendous.
The most exciting playoffs I think I've ever seen. And college games were just must-see TV, all of it. You know, the games were nip and tuck down to this wire, dramatic plays. I mean, you know, the play that Fernando Mendoza made is going to be etched in in glory forever. I mean, that scramble and the reaching out into the end zone. Oh my God, that was just so brilliant. It's going to go down as one of the greatest college football plays ever. But in these playoffs, we're just seeing. Did you see the Butte catch over Stingley?
Oh yeah, it was great
in New England in that snow.
Tremendous.
I mean, that was just unbelievable. One arm catch.
And how about Caleb Williams' development?
Oh my God,
under a great OC.
Oh,
tremendous. He made some throws.
Right.
I've never seen anybody
Correct.
make throws the way he. Tremendous. And what does it come down to? Coaching. Comes down to coaching.
It does.
He didn't have Israel Wolfork handing him the ball and shooting the shit every practice. He was coached hard. He was coached smart. He's got a good play caller. All the difference in the world.
It is. And, you know, the future's bright there.
Very.
So, but Kyle, can you pull up a poll that I ran on Twitter this morning about whether the Cardinals have hit rock bottom? Let's see what the fans have voted. My three choices were yes, A, B, no, C, I don't care anymore. So let's see. What are you voting, Kyle?
Let me see here. Well, we talked about it before. I think the Browns are maybe a little lower. So I'm gonna say, in the spirit of optimism today, no, this isn't rock bottom. We can still go lower.
The Browns have a world-class defense.
Yes, they do.
I mean,
they have a
how can we be better than the Browns when at least on one side of the ball they're like potentially lights out? Can we say that about the Cardinals?
No, and they have a future Hall of Famer as a foundation piece, right. Absolutely. But that A, the organization is a mess, and B, that offense is just brutal. But again, it's grasping at straws. The Browns technically had a better record than the Cardinals last year, so in that respect, the Browns are ahead of them. I'll say no, just for the spirit of optimism here today, that it can get worse for the Cardinals.
Wow.
53% say yes, this is rock bottom. 25% say no. 21.4% say I no longer care.
Sad.
You gotta love the nose.
I think that the fans recognize it.
Oh, for sure.
And 19 wins in 4 years after giving Kyler his bag. Man, and going through two coaching staffs in that interim. It's pretty shitty stuff and really hard games to watch as a Cardinals fan. And to be out of it by October, you know, practically this year. I mean, you know, and 2 years ago, and then the year before that. When your team's out of it by October, you're just like, what the frick? So, you know, I don't know if we had some answers here today about what to do moving forward, but I'm just hoping that we get nicely surprised, that something good happens for us here, like we were with BA when the dust fell, and you know we ended up with BA, who was turned down by the Bears. That was a fortuitous bounce for us. Just hoping for more of that. My fear all along has been when you cast a Bidwillian wide net, there are too many holes and the fish just swim through it. You don't bring anyone home. So, but it hasn't even been a wide net, really.
Nope.
I mean, not when you don't include McDaniel, Dayball, all these guys, McDermott. If you don't include guys like that, just to even see what they have to say is not casting a wide net, in my opinion.
I do think a couple of those people declined. I would imagine that's part of it too.
Yes.
Yeah. And all right. So, and now we know why they would decline, and and unfortunately, but like they say, there are only 32 of these jobs. And someone could look at this roster and see an opportunity here. It'll take a brave soul and an optimistic soul, but I'm open for the best, and we'll see what happens. But final thoughts, Sam?
Well, you're a longtime Cardinal fan, and if you don't hope for the best, you won't remain a Cardinal fan, because hope is what keeps us all together. And it's going to be an underwhelming. I'm just preparing myself for an underwhelming hire, and it's going to be a hire that we're all going to have to get used to, and have that hope,
right,
that they get things turned around eventually. I don't see it's not going to be a quick turnaround. We're not going to have a Liam Cohn turnaround. We're just not. We don't have the staff. We don't have the money, et cetera, et cetera. I've gone on and on about that today. So I want to make my last comment and just say I have as high hopes as I reasonably can. I think I think that's because we will have a better staff than the one we just fired.
Thank you, my man. Kyle?
Well, while it hasn't gone great, and many of the quality candidates that are on the board have taken other jobs, whether that's Harbaugh or soon to be Joe Brady, who's pretty much pulling himself out of the Cardinals race, knowing that he might end up with the Steelers or the Ravens job, or Saleh going to the Titans. I just would kind of say stick to my original vision, which is you got to hire from one of the 6 strong organizations over the last 10 years. You got to go from Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, the Rams, the 49ers, or the Eagles. Seahawks is again the up and coming team, and I understand that too, but those 6 organizations have been the standards of success for the last 10 years in the NFL. I would still try and go for one of somebody in those organizations. I'm not the biggest Clay Kubiak or Mike LaFleur fan, so maybe not those guys, even though they are going through the interview process. We haven't talked much about Chris Shula. I thought he would get more interest across the league, and there hasn't really been as much. I know a lot of teams are opting for offensive-minded coaches, but maybe if a couple more jobs go off the board, maybe the Cardinals just make a big push for Shula, and that's the person you hire, and
I'm game.
Maybe he brings
I'd like it.
Yeah, maybe he brings the passing game coordinator we were talking about earlier, Nate Scheelhaus, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets a chance as a first-time play caller.
That gives me hope. That would give me a lot of hope.
Yeah. So again, there's still quality candidates out there.
Right.
But if you've resigned yourself to none of them are going to take the terrible job, then you just I think you go younger, or you'd go with someone who's a stopgap coach and say, well, Monti's going to get fired in 2 years anyways, and a new GM will pick a new coach type of situation, which is, again, that's where I think it's going to feel underwhelming. If it's one of those guys who's in their 40s, has been a head coach before, isn't getting top dollar, I think that's where the hire is going to feel a little bit underwhelming for the Cardinals. But I still think there's time to get a quality candidate. There's only but so many of those jobs. People are willing to come interview, which again, I think is a sign. And if the Titans and the Packers, or not the Packers, the Dolphins who hired Halfley have shown you anything, if you're just willing to push for your guy and make an all out push to get them and show them you're interested, that speaks volumes. So we'll see how it ends up going. There's still time for a quality coaching candidate to get hired, even though the three names we mentioned last week as interesting hires for the Cardinals all seem to be moving on to other opportunities, whether it's McDaniel or Stefanski or Joe Brady or Kubiak. So
what happens what happens if Mikey wants to hire Vance Joseph and Monti doesn't want him? I mean, Bidwill's going to make the decision. Monty's doing the search, but Bidwill says he's going to make the decision on hiring the coach.
Oh,
can you see a situation where Mike hires a coach that Monti doesn't want?
Well, I think, yeah, that situation happens before, but I think it won't matter because everyone will be fired in 2 years. It won't matter. It won't matter at that point. I mean, this just happened with the Titans. The Titans wanted to hire
100%.
The Titans, is it Rand Carthon was the GM before this? The Titans wanted to hire Aaron Glenn. The owner wanted to hire Brian Callahan. So they hired Brian Callahan and everyone got fired within 2 years. That exact same situation will happen with the Cardinals if the owner picks over the GM, because then the GM, then you're not the GM anymore. Then the owner is the GM. And then what are you even doing here at that point?
See, your question is perfect because it feeds into Michael Bidwill's history with GMs. He should have fired Steve Keim after the second DWI. Instead, because Bidwill liked Steve Wilkes, that was his guy. Keim wanted James Betcher, who was BA's guy in recommendation. Bidwill said no to that. He said, Steve, I really feel good about Wilkes. And then the whole Wilkes thing is tough from the beginning because it's another scenario where you hire a defensive-minded head coach and put a veteran offensive coordinator with him who is flat out awful and who nobody got excited about in the first place, with Sam Bradford, and then gets fired. I mean, the whole thing was just that whole thing. But it was Steve Keim, acquiescing to Bidwill. Okay, that's your guy. And then when it falls flat on his face, Bidwill feels like he owes it to his GM to go, yeah, you were right. And so now I'll try to work with you on who you want on the next guy, and then and that's the scenario right now. There's no doubt in my mind that clearly Monti didn't want Vance Joseph in 2023. Otherwise, he would have hired him then. He wanted Gannon. And now Bidwill can say to him, well, you fucked that one up, didn't you?
Which is why
now it's my turn. And I'm going to appoint the guy. And
if you were a well-run organization,
the guy I wanted, 3 years ago in Vance. Bluto wanted him. Kyler wanted him. I like him. I'll tell you one thing. If it's Vance, and I'll address the elephant in the room, is I would welcome another black head coach, especially after the whitewashing of this staff was just in my mind. If you look at all the key players in the staff and coaching, it's all white. It's a blizzard. I mean, I don't know of any other NFL organization that's like that. And I don't know if it was just weird cosmic coincidence. I don't think so. But that would assure me that at least Bidwill is open-minded to getting a little color in here. That I think would be a huge step for the organization. And hopefully not a one-and-done embarrassing debacle that was the Steve Keim situation where Keim ends up being the scapegoat for the dysfunctional aspects of the organization. And for Steve Keim, I think, got a raise. Yeah, that whole thing was just so screwed up. But this is the thing. This is why I want him to move on from Monti, is that it's the Bidwillian quid pro quo. I'll give you this guy. It's your choice. But if he screws up, I get the next guy. Give it. And, then he hangs on to him instead of creating an wide open opportunity to package a GM with the right coach. So,
which is why they should have probably just fired the GM if the owner's going to make the head coaching hire anyways.
Exactly.
There's no point.
Exactly. So
he didn't want to pay him.
Right.
So he's essentially saying, I'm going to run the team for a year or 2 years.
What does he have left? 1 more year left on his contract, Ossenfort?
I believe so.
Right. So what's the big frickin' deal? It's about getting things right, isn't it? In Bidwill's world, it's just, he always does everything half-assed. Always. It's always, I'll do this, but not this. And that's the thing about a quid pro quo. It's like, it's always conditional. It's always dependent on what happens. And then here's what happens if A happens. Here's what happens if B happens. But here's what you owe me. And here's potentially what I would owe you. And those kind of circumstances get muddy and, cloud judgments and whatnot. So, but, this was really fun to talk about. I'm late to the party. I didn't think the Cardinals were rock bottom. And I don't think their roster is at all. I mean, I think, you said Chris Shula. That really intrigues me because of how he's developed the Rams talent on defense. That's what we need, is a defensive coach to develop our talent, because it's there. It's there. It needs to be coached up, and it needs to be put in a system that's aggressive, not passive, like the Rams are. So that intrigues me. If it comes down to that, I'd love to have him here. And like you said, with Shieldhouse, oh my God, I love that. Even though he hasn't called plays yet, we have a DC who has, but you're coming from the McVay tree, so I feel like he would have a really good chance. And like Sam said, we're probably not going to make the playoffs next year, although my hopes are that we will, for some crazy reason like the Jaguars did, or other teams that in 1 year when they start getting on a roll, they like the Houston Texans did in their first year and haven't looked back since. So, but yes to Shula, yes to any of those NFC West guys that we can get intel on and tap into what they've learned from the best. And seeing as they are the best, who's in the NFC Championship game? 2 NFC West teams. And what a game that's going to be, I think. Wow. And boy, I was shocked to see how easily the Seahawks just dismantled Salah's defense and handled Shanahan's offense. They were just fantastic. And I think I want to talk about this in future episodes. The job that Mike McDonald's done coming into that division versus offensive titans of the industry, and what he has done in 2 years is so magnificent. It makes you think, when you get a team in the right hands like that, you got to get lucky, but you also have to do your homework. When you get your team in the right hands, look what can happen. That's what brings hope in this the coaching aspect is so huge, but you need the GM too to make it all click. So enjoy these games, and then of course we got the Patriots at Sam's Broncos. That ought to be fascinating. Of course, with unfortunately Bo Nix going down. I was saying to my pal Trish during the game, I'm like, they're running Nix like crazy. Why are they doing that? I said, he's going to get hurt. Second to last play. I just don't understand when you have all these other weapons, why you're running your quarterback that much. I'm sad to say that he got hurt because he was playing great and he was running well. I give him credit. But, now he's going. Now you got Jarrett Stidham, former Patriot, backup quarterback, one of the better ones in the league. That's going to be curious to see. So there are all these great storylines and, the coaching situation. Think of it this way. You got McDonald in his second year. You got Vrabel in his first year. And they're your two NFL Coach of the Year candidates. They've gotten their teams all the way to the championship games in such a short time. That's why I just want to have a little hope in my heart that things like this can happen, even to teams that have been down for a while. So I hope you guys enjoy the AFC, NFC championship games, and that you have a good week. And until then, we'll be with you on Wednesdays until a hire, and then we're going to jump in, be flexible to chime in on our thoughts about whatever the hire is. But it's looking more and more like it won't be anytime soon. But who knows? So anyway, stay tuned. Thanks for being here. We've got good numbers, thanks to you. Until then, Red Rain.